So VS stands for Visual Studio, which is the tool created by Microsoft. Now, I'm hesitant to say IDE because technically, it's not really an IDE. And it's not also a very simple text editor. So something like Sublime, if you've seen Sublime, so that's an editor or a code editor, okay? And then a real full-fledged IDE is something like Visual Studio itself, not Visual Studio Code. So Visual Studio Code is a miniature version of Visual Studio. So we cannot say it's a completely IDE, but it's much more than just a simple code editor. So whatever you want to call it, it's fine with me. Want to call it code editor, want to call it light IDE, doesn't matter really. Okay, but you can install it here. Okay, and it gives you that integrated environment. So you can edit your file, you can manage the file with the menu, you can run your code and debug and all that. So it gives you the integrated environment. Now, before you can run a Python code, you need to install an extension. So if you go to extensions, you will find the extension that is created, provided by Microsoft for Python. So this allows you to create Python file, and it gives you helps you out with the coding. So it completes the coding and gives you direct access to the documentation and all that. Okay. Now, how do we actually use it? Now let me just open VSCode and start that. It's not usually that slow, but seems like I opened multiple versions. Okay, I wanna start the process from the beginning, so I'm gonna close this. All right, so as we've seen, the unit of interaction is just one file. You can put this file anywhere you want, right? But when you are creating a system, like most likely you'd need multiple files, so you need to create a folder to put them all together, right? All right, so we start with. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. Seems like the battery's out. All right, so we're gonna start with opening it. So when you open the VS Code, you will see this welcome screen. Even if you don't see it, you can always go to File, and we start with opening an existing folder or creating a new one. So I'm just gonna open folder, okay? And I'm gonna create a new one. So I'm gonna put it somewhere easy to find. And a very minute detail here. Try to not have any spaces in your path. So you're gonna create a folder. So I'm gonna create it directly on the C. Now, when you say Python space example, Windows is not gonna complain. You may not face immediate problems, but later on, you may face real issues, especially with Git. Okay, so you don't want to have any spaces in your path from beginning to end, not just your file. Okay, so any folders or like the entire what's called the entire path from beginning to end, try to eliminate any spaces. So it's easier, it's better to use either the camel case or just to use underscore. Okay, so if your username on Windows, if your username has a space, that might be problematic, so try to change it now. Okay, so I created a folder. I select this folder. So if it already existing, I just selected it. Like because it's new, I just create the folder and then open it and then select it. So now that opens the empty folder here, as you can see. Now I want to create a file. I can use these links or I can use the links here. So I want to create a file and I'll call it hello.py. Okay, so I'm going to create a Python file. Now we see once it recognizes the extension, it will try to find an interpreter in your system. You see here, this, it will try to find an interpreter in your system. Now see what is the default version here? 3.12. So if you're comparing what you see on the VS Code to what you see on the command line when we open it was version what? It was version 11, right? So you may face these problems when you have multiple versions. Now it's easy to change here. You can click here on the version number. You can choose another interpreter if you want to. Now I personally prefer to remove all other versions, but not everybody does that, and some people forget, or like, it's good that you know how to deal with it when it happens. Okay, so we're gonna use the 3.12, and we're just gonna do our hello world. So print hello. All right, and then now when you go to the run menu, you have two ways to run your code. Either start in debugging, like in debug mode, and we'll see what does that mean and how can we use it. And that's what we're gonna use most of the time. Or if you wanna skip the debugging activities, you wanna just run without debugging, okay, you can do that too. So Control F5 will run without debugging. F5 by itself will run with debugging. That's kind of the opposite of the IDEs, Java IDEs. So you just need to. So F5 would run in debug mode. Control F5 would run it without debug mode. So when it run it, the output opens in the terminal. Okay, so this terminal is pretty much the same as the command line we opened before, like when you opened like this. So it's just a command line. It's just opened within this window of the IDE so that everything in one place. Okay, we're almost over. Just give me 1 minute. All right, now even if this terminal is not there and you want to open it, you can open it from here. Okay, or you can add multiple terminals, split terminals, and all that. All right, so that's all we have here. Now we're gonna start coding next session.